The silver screen offers a dark allure, allowing us to watch our favorite celebrities as we wonder about the secrets that they keep so closely guarded. In the wake of new developments, we find ourselves revisiting some old interviews that have now been tainted with dark narratives and the weight of hindsight. Number 10. Dominating the golfing world is an individual who's been revered as one of the greatest golfers of all time. Tiger Woods became the youngest man to win the United States Masters in 1997, and quickly became one of the most victorious players in the sport. Woods had seen success early on in his career, starting off with winning 4 consecutive major championships from 2000 to 2001. For his on-field persona, this celebrity was viewed as a model for aspiring athletes and was portrayed as flawless. But where there's money, there's bound to be something scandalous, a feature that would continue to haunt the remainder of Woods' career and life, even if the decision was made not to mention any such scandals in the documentary about the golfer's life. So incredible and rare was Tiger Woods' success that he began finding himself at the center of several interviews in the early 2000s. One notable interview, which would take a dark turn later on, was his 2006 appearance on 60 Minutes with Ed Bradley. The golf star's persona paints him as a reliable, polished, composed, and calm individual. In this interview, amid discussions of his victories and talents, Bradley begins to dig a little deeper into the life of the celebrity at the peak of his fame. They spoke about family, integrity, loyalty, and how they'd always been a foundation and pillar for him throughout his career. During this in-depth interview, Bradley also brings up another aspect of Woods' life. The aspect is Ellen Nordegren, a Swedish model and au pair who'd married the golfer just 18 months earlier. Woods described his bride as his best friend and expressed that he believed he found his life partner. He further stated that she'd been an incredible influence, bringing joy and balance to his life. It would be this very change that would send shivers down the spines of fans just a few short years later, in the wake of a jarring revelation. It was 2009 when the scandal broke out into the public eye, shattering the golden boy facade that made him seem infallible. The National Enquirer was the first to expose it, headlining the articles with emboldened keywords Tiger Woods, affair, and nightclub manager. It was out. Tiger Woods was having an affair, and now everyone knew it. The news articles became the talk of the town, but the scandal would quickly become overshadowed just days later when the golfer was involved in a car accident. In the early morning hours while on his way home, he had steered his Escalade right into the hedges, a tree, and a fire hydrant, dealing serious damage and waking his wife, who pulled him from the wreckage. No alcohol was involved in the incident, but Woods was issued a citation of $164. But this would be the very least of his problems. Just days later, US Weekly was back on the topic of extramarital affairs, this time suggesting he was involved in another affair with another woman, bringing the allegations to 2. Allegedly, Woods was secretly engaged in romances not only with nightclub manager Rachel Uchida, but also with Jamie Grubbs, who claimed they'd been seeing each other for almost 2 years. Woods was in the process of scrubbing all evidence of this affair, according to one suspicious voice note, which instructed Grubbs to erase his contact from her phone. The woman exposed Woods through the media, revealing all their text messages. The forthcomings would ultimately see a swarm of women coming forward too, exposing their individual rendezvous with the world's most well-known golfer. By the end of it, Tiger Woods had confessed to cheating with as many as 120 women behind his wife's back during the entirety of their 5-year marriage. Number 9. Kanye West rose to fame in the late 90s and early 2000s as a producer, rapper, and fashion designer. His successes led to his title of a popular, critically acclaimed solo artist. It didn't take long for this celebrity to be revered as one of the most influential of his generation. But West wasn't known only for his rapping skills. He also had a public persona that often overshadowed his music career. West earned himself quite a controversial reputation over the years, which seemingly began in 2009, following the incident at the VMAs where he interrupted Taylor Swift's acceptance speech, and from there, the rapper began to make some opinionated statements that were viewed as contentious, including one claim that George Bush didn't care about people of color, and that slavery was a choice. Amid the bizarre behavior and aligning himself with 1940s German views, West also seemed to be struggling with something much darker, lingering within his psyche. It was during a 2020 interview with Joe Rogan that this celebrity's troubled mind was brought to light through various unsettling statements. This interview took place during West's run for president of the United States, a topic that starts off the interview. Joe Rogan asks the rapper whether he had considered what he would do if a military issue arose in Iran, Syria, or any other conflict zone. West responded that he wasn't sure how he would navigate such issues, but suggested that his calling was to lead the free world. At one point in the interview, he stated that when he talks, he experiences a symphony of ideas, after which he breaks out in song and tells his host to picture 100,000 people singing simultaneously. This aspect of the interview was his way of explaining that jumping between different topics isn't a rant, but rather this amorphous symphony of ideas. The conversation soon travels down a different road when he talks about anxiety, bipolar disorder, and medication. West explains that the bipolar disorder diagnosis led him to being placed on medication that allegedly hindered his ability to channel his creativity and to do what God wanted him to do. He expressed feeling like a shell of who he really was. Undoubtedly, West was experiencing a mental health crisis, and it didn't seem like the medication was helping either. But there was a reason for that. Earlier this year, in February, a startling revelation was brought into the public eye, making that 2020 interview incredibly disturbing. It turned out that Kanye West had been misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder, leading him to be placed on potentially dangerous, unnecessary medication that could have had some dire consequences. A re-examination instead found that he had autism. West revealed this jarring discovery in a podcast called The Download with Justin LeBoy. He explained that his wife Bianca suggested that he be re-evaluated, alleging that his behavior doesn't manifest in the same way that she had experienced bipolar disorder with other people. So he went to a psychiatrist, and the re-evaluation discovered that he was autistic, not bipolar. Number 8. Also making a quick rise in popularity was the multi-instrumentalist R. Kelly, whose career took off in the 90s and early 21st century. Much like Kanye West, Kelly took on various business roles, including singer, songwriter, and producer. Several of his songs made the top 40 Billboard singles, but contributing to that success was the famous duet with Celine Dion, which sold more than 8 million copies in the United States. But his success would soon be overshadowed by an eerie takeover of allegations, accusations, and controversies that dominated his personal life. Those accusations centered around assault and abuse that were carried out against women from 1991 to 2018. In 2002, he'd been arrested and prosecuted for alleged explicit content involving minors, leading to a controversial trial that resulted in his acquittal. Despite his release, the rumors and allegations continued to run rampant, affecting Kelly's career and personal life. In March of 2019, hoping to defend his name, the celebrity appeared on CBS's This Morning, and what followed was an emotional and inflammatory conversation that would turn even darker in the wake of the 2021 6-week trial. In the interview with Gayle King, R. Kelly denies several of the accusations that have been made against him. He maintains that these are rumors built upon lies in circulation, and expressed that he was tired of them. When asked whether he'd broken any laws regarding women, Kelly shook his head and insisted he hadn't. Gayle then cites the various statements made by several women, family members, and even his tour manager regarding the abuse scandal, and asks if everyone interviewed was telling a lie. Kelly, in response, states that he's not a monster and admits that he had undoubtedly made mistakes, which he attempted to rectify during those relationships. The women who spoke out against Kelly described him as controlling, suggesting that he tells them when they can eat, sleep, or use the bathroom. The celebrity's explanation for these independent yet similar claims was that it was easy to start such rumors that allow one to capitalize on them through reality shows and the next big break story. Essentially, he was suggesting that accusations stemmed from one claim, leading to a chain reaction of allegations from exes, with whom things had ended badly, in an effort to destroy his career. The interview would soon take a drastic turn when Kelly began to get visibly worked up after Gale referred to the claims that he had held people against their will. He looked directly at the camera and became very animated as he told viewers to use their common sense, and it would be incredibly stupid for him to keep anyone captive given his unnerving past. Dominating the interview was a clear denial from Kelly's part. He maintained his innocence throughout the entirety of the conversation, but that innocence would not be long-lasting. Just months later, the celebrity was facing federal indictments, arrests, and several trials. And in the end, R. Kelly would be sentenced to 30 years in prison. Number 7. It was films like The Mighty Ducks and North that started Jussie Smollett on the road to stardom. He would then appear in Alien, Marshall, and Ask Me Anything before becoming a main character in the 2015 series Empire. Amid his acting in several films and shows, Smollett landed a record contract with Columbia Records, furthering his success as a celebrity. But in 2019, Smollett's Empire reign would be overshadowed by a daunting story. "Star breaks silence in an exclusive interview" was the headline for one of the videos circulating on Good Morning America. The silence he was breaking concerned a harrowing experience that he'd recently endured in Chicago. According to him, in the early morning hours of January 29th, he was leaving a Subway restaurant when two individuals tried to gain his attention. Their efforts allegedly included shouting out racial and homophobic slurs. When Smollett stopped, the two attackers allegedly tied a rope around his neck, poured an unknown substance on him, and made use of their feet, hands, and teeth as weapons. This information could only be accessed by ABC News through the Freedom of Information Act. The police report indicated that the actor had sustained severe injuries, including bruises to the ribs and clavicle. When the attack became public, though, Smollett didn't get the reaction he expected. Instead, he found doubt in the place of concern. Fans and viewers didn't believe his disturbing story and suggested it was all made up. In response to the reaction, Smollett would appear on Good Morning America with host Robin Roberts. From the very beginning, the celebrity appears teary-eyed, only getting more so when asked what has made him so angry. Smollett explained that the attackers aren't what's causing him the most pain, but rather the online attacks that he's facing. He explains that he thought the best thing to do was tell the truth, and that's supposedly what he did. But Smollett would be left questioning how anyone could doubt his allegations, saying repeatedly, "It's the truth." He goes on to say that those who doubt his story don't necessarily think he's lying, but are willingly ignorant, not wanting to see the reality. The Empire star was left heartbroken by the criticism that he faced, and for the first time he began to go into full detail about the episode. Smollett stated that he turned around to find his attackers wearing masks. One of the men allegedly called out a Trump-related phrase before assaulting him and prompting a tussle. The men would abruptly stop their attack and run off, leaving the rope hanging around their victim's neck. Officers soon began investigating the assault, calling it a suspected hate crime as they attempted to find witnesses and suspects. During the search for answers, a disturbing narrative would begin to unfold, one that would make this Good Morning America interview look all the more disingenuous. The police were able to track down the two assailants, identified as the Osundairo brothers, Olabino and Abimbola. During the interrogations, it was revealed that Smollett himself concocted the street attack. The two alleged that it was a planned attack to garner media attention for the star, after a threatening letter that was sent to the Empire studio, also orchestrated by Smollett, failed to gain enough traction. Despite insisting that the event really happened, Smollett's staged attack was exposed, leading to severe criticism and a reevaluation of that emotional interview. Number 6. Serving as one of the biggest actors in Hollywood, the star of the Mission Impossible franchise is Tom Cruise. Since the 80s, he's been one of the most prominent stars in Hollywood and was the talk of the town. Throughout his extensive career, Cruise would make headlines for various reasons, from the most mundane next big movie to much more sinister matters. Because of his celebrity status, Cruise appeared on several talk shows and interviews throughout his career, but the most notable was his appearance on The Oprah Winfrey Show in 2005. The interview came at a time when Cruise had just entered into a relationship with Katie Holmes, the actress from Dawson's Creek. During that interview, Oprah thanks the actor for attending her Legends Ball and mentions Katie's name, with whom Tom Cruise attended the event. The mere mention of her name prompted a bizarre reaction from the actor, which would be the first two reasons why this interview would become so popular. His reaction to his date's name sent Cruise into a whirl of excitement, sending off a display of strange movements. He even holds his host's hands and shakes them in excitement. After several minutes of manic behavior, he eventually reveals why he was acting this way. Tom Cruise was in love. Right then, one of the most iconic moments in TV history would happen. The actor leaps into the air and jumps on Oprah's couch before sitting back down again. But this leap wasn't enough to get out all that energy, and Cruise goes in for a second jump. Later in the interview, the two decide to bring Katie out on stage, but she refuses. Eventually, Cruise heads to the back and essentially forces Katie in front of the audience by holding her hands behind her back. The new couple share a kiss on stage, prompting cheers from the crowd. It was clear the actor was really lovesick. No more than a year later, Cruise and Katie were married. They even went on to have a daughter together. For the next 7 years, they were regarded as one of the best Hollywood couples of their time, until one day it all came crashing down. It was just 6 years into their marriage when Katie decided to file for divorce in June of 2012. In just 2 weeks, they settled. The couple moved on without much detail reaching the public, and eventually the reasoning behind the sudden decision was brought to light, and it was nothing short of disturbing. Katie Holmes filed for divorce in an effort to protect their daughter from Scientology, which we all know is Cruise's current practicing religion, which is often regarded as a cult based upon pseudoscientific narratives. There were other factors involved in the split, such as differing roles. Cruise was constantly away on set, while she was regarded as merely Mrs. Tom Cruise rather than her own identity. Family opposition was another contributing factor from Katie's side, whose Catholic family never approved of the marriage. The most disturbing of aspects, though, was the rumored controlling behavior that was said to have dominated the relationship. Allegations said that Cruise was demanding and controlling, which would have undoubtedly placed strain on the marriage. This sudden end to the relationship and motives behind it became the second reason why that 2005 interview is still so popular. The excitement and erratic behavior are now viewed as a put-on performance, and the way that Cruise forced Katie out on stage with her hands behind her back is seen as the very first clue of what would become a controlling relationship. Number 5. Sean Connery has been regarded as the most famous actor to have ever played James Bond. He was the original 007 in the very first installment of the film series, Dr. No, which was released in 1962. The British actor would also star in Highlander, Indiana Jones, and The Avengers. While being revered as one of the most liked James Bonds, Connery would face severe backlash following several interviews in which he made a jarring comment, leading many to realize that maybe he's not that nice of a guy after all. It began in November of 1965 in a lost Playboy magazine interview in which Connery made an incredibly disturbing statement that he didn't believe that there was anything wrong with hitting a woman, but didn't recommend it be done in the same way that one would hit a man. The comment would resurface in 1987 during a sit-down with Barbara Walters. At one point, the host makes a reference to that interview from 1965. She recalls that Connery said it wasn't the worst thing to slap a woman now and then, and that it shouldn't be done with a clenched fist but with an open hand. After expressing her disapproval of this statement, Barbara would be left shocked by what Connery would say next. He stated he had not changed his opinion and explained that it depended entirely on the situation and if it was merited. The host in turn asked him what exactly the motivation behind lifting his hand to a woman would be. Connery's response made the interview even more disturbing. He divulged that if he had already tried everything else, supposedly amid an argument, and the woman still hasn't, quote, left it alone, and refuses to accept, quote, the last word, then according to him, it's absolutely right to raise a hand to her. Number 4. In 2003, one of the most watched and award-winning talk shows debuted on TV screens. It was the interactive, comedy-filled Ellen DeGeneres show, hosted by comedian Ellen DeGeneres. The show was a mix of the most entertaining elements from musical performances, games, feel-good segments, and celebrity interviews. Also dominating the show were impressive giveaways, including cars, international travel, houses, gift cards, and incredible prizes. From the get-go, Ellen would earn herself quite the reputation as the Queen of Nice, whose harsher jokes were taken in good spirits. Through the years, though, something began peeking through that nice facade. Ellen's knack for making her guests uncomfortable with cruel pranks or conversations that they didn't want to get into. One notable example of this was Taylor Swift's 2012 interview on The Ellen DeGeneres Show. Taylor's fame had skyrocketed from the dawn of her career. Her songs about her various exes made her incredibly popular among the youth. Over the years, she seems to have adopted a cult-like following. Most of the time, big-name stars tend to dwindle from the front line, but not Taylor. Over 12 studio albums, she's cultivated a strong fan base, ultimately earning 14 Grammy Awards, including 4 wins for Album of the Year. Fans find Taylor's on-screen and off-screen persona likable, which is why Ellen faced significant backlash in 2012 after making the star cry on TV. During the interview, the host addresses a rumor that her guest had been dating Zac Efron. Taylor denies ever being engaged in a romantic relationship with him. From there, the conversation drifts into the guest's past love life. In fact, this aspect takes over the rest of the interview. At one point, Ellen even asks Taylor who We're Never Getting Back Together is about, but Taylor is reluctant to share that information, expressing that it should all be left up to interpretation and mystery. But the host pushes the conversation and suggests they play a game in which her guest reveals who she's dated and which of them may be linked to her songs. She hands Taylor a bell and instructs her to ring it when a picture of that suspected ex pops up on screen. But the celebrity remains reluctant and calls into question her dignity. But Ellen persists. The slideshow of images begins, and Taylor expresses that it was all making her feel bad. After not ringing the bell, Ellen takes it from her and proceeds to ring it herself. By the time it lands on Rob Lowe, with the host ringing the bell, Taylor is left in tears and begging her to stop. The interview quickly reverts to its regular comedy style once the game ends, but it left viewers questioning Ellen's niceness from then on. Years later, internal investigations discovered complaints of bullying, misconduct, and even racism, particularly pertaining to certain producers. Ellen was described as mean-spirited amid all this turmoil, and looking back on several episodes now, that very description seems to become apparent. According to Everybody Loves Raymond's Brad Garrett, Ellen's mistreatment of her guests is common knowledge. Number 3. In contrast to the mean spirit and false facade of Ellen DeGeneres, Princess Diana was revealed as a genuinely kind person who demonstrated genuine compassion towards people around the world. Diana, Princess of Wales, was Prince Charles's first wife, and the mother of Princes William and Harry. Despite being part of the royal family, meant to set an example, a mundane scandal would soon take hold of them. Amid struggles with depression and bulimia, the princess became estranged from her prince. Reports of infidelity from both sides soon made headlines, with Diana claiming to be in a relationship with Mayor James Hewitt, and Charles having resumed the relationship with his ex and future wife, Queen Camilla. By the 90s, it was clear that the pair were so unhappy together that they were dubbed the Glums. Amid the rumors of separation and scandal, the media quickly latched on, trying to secure interviews with the royal family to become the first to break the story. The BBC program, Panorama, would be the first to succeed at this. In 1995, in what would become the most infamous interviews, Diana met up with Martin Bashir, and what followed was the most explosive of revelations. The princess spoke at length and in great detail about her marriage with Charles, revealing the affair and talks of a separation. She expressed that she doubted that she would ever be named queen, but preferred to be the queen of people's hearts instead. It was also in the Panorama interview that she spoke frankly about her bulimia struggles, showing vulnerability that was uncharacteristic of royal family officials. Unaware of a great scandal that was afoot, 23 million viewers tuned in and listened as Diana questioned how well Charles could handle becoming king. It would be this very Panorama episode that would be the final straw in the relationship. Queen Elizabeth soon urged the pair to end their marriage, and in 1996, it was. Eventually, the story and the interview would fall from public view and remain in the depths of TV history until 2020, on the 25th anniversary of the program. It was then that a startling revelation was made. It turned out that the interview wasn't authorized the way that it should have been. In fact, it was based upon forgery. Martin Bashir had gained access to the vulnerable princess through forged documentation and misleading allegations. In 2021, a full-scale investigation was launched, uncovering fake bank statements made to deceive Diana's brother, Earl Spencer, and manipulating him into introducing the two. Number 2. Larry King didn't know it yet, but in 1991, he would be interviewing one of the most controversial individuals of this generation. Bill Cosby had gained widespread popularity through his TV shows, I Spy, Fat Albert, and The Cosby Show, attracting large audiences and becoming a box office success through his films. He would receive numerous awards for his work, including multiple Emmys, Grammys, and People's Choice Awards. It was his quick rise in popularity that landed him on Larry King Live in December of 1991, where he promoted his book titled Childhood. During the general conversation, Cosby would make a truly bizarre statement that would only become scary and unsettling years later. He began explaining to Larry that Spanish fly was the substance that boys as young as 11 years old, up until old age, would make use of to get girls. Cosby suggested that placing just a drop the size of a pinhead in a woman's drink would make her yours. Spanish fly was a term used to refer to various aphrodisiacs or love potions. The true Spanish fly substance is said to come from blister beetles, which produce cantharidin, which can cause blisters on the skin, but also has its uses in intimacy. Such uses have been traced back to the Roman era, when an empress used to encourage certain behavior that she later used to blackmail her family. Soldiers, kings, and queens also used it during the period. The idea behind the use of Spanish fly was intended to be consensual, but what Cosby was portraying was anything but that. He expressed that no matter the age, men will always be searching for Spanish fly to, quote, put in her drink, and the, quote, girls would drink it. Years later, this particular conversation would be viewed in a new light, taking on a particularly disturbing one. In 2004, one of the very first assault cases was brought to light, leading to a $3.4 million settlement. The victim claimed that after going to Cosby's house, she was offered 3 pills, which he said would help her relax. He misled her into believing they were some sort of herbal supplement, but that was far from the truth. In the years to follow, a wave of new allegations would be brought to the public's attention. Several women began speaking out, suggesting that the comedian had carried out non-consensual acts against them. Today, many women continue to speak out against Cosby, maintaining that he's a repeat offender who made use of narcotics to get what he wanted, ruining the lives of people as he did so. Number 1. In light of the Me Too movement, American journalist and television co-host of Today, the weekday morning talk show, Matt Lauer, would be left jobless. Allegations of inappropriate behavior and misconduct began to surface and became a public controversy. Several stories arose, leading viewers to revisit some particular interviews on the show. One such episode that has accompanied the allegations of bad behavior is the 2012 interview with Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway, an American actress who starred in The Devil Wears Prada and The Princess Diaries, became a guest on several talk shows and in interviews as her acting career grew over the years. In the wake of her then new movie, she was invited to Today, with Matt Lauer as the host. From the get-go, the interview appears to take a rather disturbing turn, a trend that would only become more pronounced years later, when Lauer's actions were called into question. Starting off their interview was a sleazily phrased greeting by Lauer, who said, "Nice to see you," followed by "Seen a lot of you lately," which was Lauer referring to an alleged wardrobe malfunction that left Anne feeling exposed. After his initial disturbing greeting, Lauer didn't let up and sticks to the topic of the woman's non-consensual exposure, asking what she's learned from that experience, clearly suggesting it was her own fault. The actress, visibly uncomfortable, goes on to explain that it was an unfortunate incident, highlighting how disturbing it is that we live in an age in which people think it's okay to take a picture of someone in a vulnerable moment. The individual instead sold the image of that incident, leading to Anne's next remark on how she hates that we live in a culture that commodifies the carnality of unwilling participants. She ends the conversation on the topic abruptly and steers it back towards her new film. Lauer's next comment, though, only made him look worse. He states that her response was certainly the most creative he'd ever heard. To viewers, it was unnervingly clear that the host was framing the entire wardrobe malfunction as an incident on his guest's end, when in reality, a sleazy photographer, in a crouching position, had grabbed an image of the actress as she stepped out of her vehicle, snapping a shot from beneath her skirt, which he later sold. Lauer's phrasing of the entire event and how it was Anne's own fault only reinforces the idea that women's bodies are inherently viewed as not only humiliating, but as public property. Luckily, this time around, the co-host didn't get away with his remarks. Years after the interview, allegations of misconduct and inappropriate behavior saw a cultural reckoning, and he was subsequently and rightfully fired. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.